and welcome back to Subculture on centralcoastradio.com. Now we're going to do a little bit of a part two of our deep dive into Supanova. We're going to take a little bit of a look at what the different actors said during their Q&As and whether they brought up anything kind of that was newsworthy. And we might kick off, I think, with the person that had the biggest following at Supanova this year, Karl Urban, of course, from Star Trek, Dread, and The Boys. He had such a huge panel that there was people actually having to stand because all of the seats were filled, and he had a line that was going right back up and around the pavilion and right down into the food court area. So he was very, very popular. Lee, what did you take out of Karl Urban's Q&A?
Well, first of all, I love that he was so down to earth. Like, you could tell he's just a great guy. And I loved hearing about his experiences with the filming of The Boy, especially the speedboat and whale scene.
Yep.
And what it was like for both him driving the speedboat and his co-star being on the boat with him. They were the highlights for me.
Yeah. I loved, he was so down to earth, but the amazing stories he was saying, he would say something like, so when I was on set with Peter Jackson, because of course Karl Urban was in Lord of the Rings, and he would tell this amazing story about how they basically got all the locals that owned horses to bring horses down for a scene in Lord of the Rings, and a lot of them were women, but because it was a scene of men battling, they had to put beards and stuff on them so that they could ride their horses in the scene. But yeah, I think that's what I took away from Karl Urban's as well. Just a really, really genuine guy. He loves being on The Boys, and as he said, he wanted to be on it before he knew that he'd been cast. He knew someone else that had been cast on the show, and he'd had a brief look at some of the comics and was like, I want to be in that show, and then was in that show. So that's what I took away from Karl Urban. Tamara Morrison, of course, was there as well, and he talked about everything from Once Were Warriors right through to The Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, and all of his Star Wars adventures that he's had. What did you enjoy about Tamara Morrison?
I think just seeing a different side of him. He shared some information about his culture and background. He sang a few songs.
Yep.
He has a great voice. Apparently has a CD too. He has quick wit and is very funny. I reckon he could be a comedian for sure. He also shared his love of the characters he's played throughout his career and gave some stories behind that.
Yeah, and he also gave people a great look into Maori culture as well, which was absolutely fantastic. And he talked a little bit about why he'd done movies like Once Were Warriors and why he felt that was important for him to do that because of his culture. So yeah, he was really, really fascinating to chat to. A great laugh, and like you said, he sang as well. So that was Tamara Morrison's little wrapper. Oh, and he did mention something newsworthy as well. He did mention, and I know people keep on saying online it's on again, off again, but Tamara Morrison talked a little bit about Taika Waititi's Star Wars film, and from what Morrison said, it sounds like it is definitely happening. So there you go, everybody. Stephen Amell from Arrow was there, of course, as well. What did you like about Stephen's Q&A?
Well, the focus was definitely on Arrow for the majority of his talk. He spoke about disappointment that DC hadn't really connected the Arrowverse with Batman films. I found that interesting.
Or the whole DC film universe.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
He spoke of Arrow ending while it was still doing well, rather than pushing it till it would have had to have ended.
Yeah.
So, ending on the high, really. And he spoke about some of the most challenging scenes he had to do and had to physically endure throughout the Arrowverse.
Yeah, he gave a great insight actually to what that's been like with the whole division between the DC TV universe and the DC film universe. And he did say that he thinks perhaps sometimes the people on the film side of things are a little bit jealous of the success of the TV side. The thing that I found most interesting about his panel, though, was him talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because, of course, he had a very big role in the films. And he talked about the fact that he's been kind of disappointed that they haven't done more of the films, and that he would definitely love to be part of them if they did. Also from Arrow, Katie Cassidy was there, the Black Canary, and the Black Siren herself. What did you enjoy about Katie's panel?
Yeah, I love that she did speak a lot about the characters Laurel and Black Canary, and also the strong working relationship she had with Paul Blackthorne, who played her father, or Detective Lance. Her disappointment of Arrow ending and cheekily blaming Stephen Amell, who the following day agreed that it basically was his choice. Yeah. But also she talked very much about her love of directing, so it was good to hear that.
Yeah, also she had a very interesting question asked to her as well. She was asked if James Gunn decided to have Black Canary in the DC universe that he's setting up now, would she want to play the part, or would she like to be part of the creative process? And she said that she would love to direct it. So that was an interesting little thing from Katie Cassidy. Now, we also had a very, very pregnant Emily DeRaven there as well from Once Upon a Time, Lost, and Roswell. What was your highlights of getting to hear Emily speak?
I think, of course, she is an Australian, an actual Victorian actor who had moved to California with a successful acting career. So it was lovely to hear she's come home and her reasons surrounding that, which included her being a mum of 2 and soon to be mum of 3. So a lot of people didn't know that. And even when she walked out, you can tell she's pregnant, and you heard a few, oh, look, she's pregnant in the audience. And, you know, she spoke about how it's safer in Australia and, you know, spoke about there's no guns in schools here.
Yep.
So that was quite interesting that she's made that choice to come home. And, of course, she's had a wonderful career, and she spoke a lot of her time on Once Upon a Time playing Belle and the great rapport she had with Robert Carlyle, Rumpelstiltskin, of course. And she spoke of other shows such as Lost and the movie Remember Me, which is an awesome film. And she spoke a lot about the twist in that.
Yeah. I asked that question to her. I love the film Remember Me, and I love the twist that pops up at the ending that you're not expecting. So I asked her, when did she find out about that twist ending? Was it something that they'd spoken to her about before she accepted the role, or was it something that she found when she read the script? And she said it was something that she found when she read the script, and that, yeah, she just basically said that it shocked her as well. I also thought it was interesting that she talked about how she'd wished that there was more backstory to Belle in Once Upon a Time too, and she said, well, hopefully maybe one day they might want to do that. Another person who was there, of course, was Kevin Sussman, who plays Stuart on Big Bang Theory. You're a Big Bang Theory fan. What did you like about hearing Kevin talk?
I liked that he talked about his personal life, that he's just married. And, of course, he did talk a lot about Big Bang. The audience's focus was definitely Big Bang.
Yep. And
kept diverting back to that. So he revealed his favourite character is Penny and favourite actor is Kaylee.
Yep.
He spoke about how sweet Jim Parsons is. And he also spoke about how originally he was going to be the character of Howard.
Yeah, he was cast in the role.
He was cast, but the ABC wouldn't allow him to actually accept that contract because he was already committed to them.
Yeah,
and so,
on Ugly Betty.
Yeah, and so you could see that that was a big thing for him at the time. He'd been celebrating. He thought he had the role. He was super excited. And then while he was celebrating, literally while he was celebrating, he got the message saying, you actually can't do it. And he was devastated. Of course, his character in Big Bang, you can't imagine him as anyone else now. Stuart is an awesome character, but you could just see that devastation that he'd gone through. And, you know, in this industry, these things happen, and it's really hard for actors.
Yeah, he talked about the studio politics of it because he was in Ugly Betty and he was contracted to that show, but had been told that he wasn't going to be used for the next season, which is why he went for the role in Big Bang. thinking that they would just kind of release him from the contract because he wasn't going to be used. But yeah, that didn't happen. So yeah, it was really interesting to hear him talk about that and give great advice to young actors out there about how sometimes studio politics can really play a big hand in things like that. And the final one that we got to check out was Veronica Taylor, which is a name that maybe some people out there won't recognize straight away. But Veronica Taylor is actually the voice of Ash in Pokemon. She also voices April O'Neil in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and she's been in Sailor Moon Crystal and a bunch of other stuff. She's got a great career as a voiceover actress. But what did you take away from Veronica Taylor's panel?
Well, first of all, I love that she actually did some voices live for us.
She did, Ash, yes.
Yes. So that was cool to see. She had her daughter there, adult daughter.
Rena.
Yep. So, and she has done some voiceover work herself and is into creative arts and painting. So it was just good to see the interaction between the two and see they're both in the arts world. She spoke about the longevity of Pokemon, however, always took one season at a time, never assumed work-wise that she had steady work, because voiceover work is like any acting. You don't know which season's coming or if it's going to stay. And she spoke about the difference of voiceover work during COVID and the equipment, the brand of microphones she used and everything when recording from home to match the studio equipment. She talked about getting the acoustics right for recording, what it's like to be in studio with other people around you compared to being alone and recording at home.
Yeah. She also talked about the fact that she found out that Ash was ending on Pokemon via Twitter, and you could tell that she's a little bit sad that the character that she started out with is not going to continue. But of course, as fans have been saying, there could possibly be a spin-off down the track kind of thing. But yeah, she talked a little bit about how she's kind of sad that Ash and Pikachu's adventures are over now in Pokemon after so many years. The thing that I found most interesting, though, was when she talked about playing April O'Neil. Someone asked her the question that, because April O'Neil has been such an iconic character in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the very start, did she go back and listen to how other people had voiced the character or played the character over the years? And she actually said she wanted to bring her own take to the character. So I thought that was really, really interesting and really fun to hear her talk about that as well, especially considering I'm a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan. But we did have a lot of fun at Supanova with all of the Q&As, and we want to thank the organizers of Supanova, and especially Lionel, who sent us the invite to be able to go along to this year's Supanova and cover it for everybody. So thank you to all of them, and make sure you check out the Supanova website to see when it's going to be landing in your city. We're going to go to another track now on Subculture here on centralcoastradio.com, but we'll be back on the other side of this track.